On January 3rd, 2025, this skinny old man said that he had a BMW motorcycle at home. At first I only half believed it, but it really was a BMW, and it is kind of luxurious. There are already a lot of buttons on the bike. Lifting up the top box above, I found out it is really super big. The old man said the bike belonged to his older brother. It had been parked for many years on the sandy ground at his home. Later it was pushed into a shed and left there for another 2 or 3 years. Altogether it has not been ridden for almost 10 years. Now that he is done with it, he is going to the south to retire. In the end it was 6500 and he threw in a 2-cylinder parts bike, and I brought it back. This bike is super heavy, just a bit short of 800 gin. But its key was also lost during that move. It went missing too. Now I can only try to think of a clumsy way to cut it open and break in. Please wish me good luck. Damn, if you ever lose your bike key again, you can give me a call. I will come and rescue you with my half-baked lock-picking skills. The key only works on one side. On the other side, someone probably cut half the teeth off with the wrong blank. I thought inside the rear case there would be some nice goodies for me, because the people who bought this kind of bike back then were not ordinary guys. But now there is only this thing in here. I do not even know what it is for, but I always feel it does not belong to this bike. There is even a hidden seat heating button here. And this piece is a hydraulic strut. Looks like this bike is pretty well equipped. The original battery is definitely dead. I hook up the jumper cables, turn the key, the dash lights up, press the horn, and it works. Then I thought just add fuel and it would be ready to ride. I scored a huge bargain for 6,500 yuan. So I grinned from ear to ear, showing my big teeth, but it would not start. It could only cough once. At first I suspected I had not clamped the cables properly, then suspected that the starter button was broken, but the problem did not seem to be there. This looks a bit like the starter motor cannot turn it. This job is about to go bad. If the starter cannot pull it, there are basically two possibilities. Either the starter itself is faulty, or the engine is seized inside. I had thought for this bit of money, buying such a big bike was really a good deal. But now it actually hides a 4-cylinder engine inside, and it is mounted transversely. This type of engine has a fatal drawback. It tends to wear unevenly and burn oil. If I had known this structure before buying, I definitely would not have spent 6,500. Now I feel a bit regretful. My beard has grown out to never mind anything else. First remove the body panels and figure out exactly where the problem is. Hopefully it is just the starter itself. But after all, it is made in Germany. Even after so many years of sitting, you can still see how good the workmanship is. Even the functions are full of German flavor. There are even 2 native residents that came with the bike here. Both of them are already dead. It truly deserves to be called an intercontinental touring cruiser. The fuel tank is super big. I just wanted to check the condition of the starter, but I have already stripped half the bike. I feel like I have gone crazy. At the rear terminal of the starter there is a red wire connected to it. Most likely this red wire is the cause. The end has oxidized to a copper green. The problem should be caused by this oxidation. Poor contact, not enough current, so the starter only barely turns. I crimp on a new copper terminal and install it back. This spot is really hard to reach. Then plug in the starter switch and focus test it directly. That is right, this is exactly the problem. One little copper wire on this small engine oxidized, causing me to tear apart half the bike. Today, I will also check through the ignition circuit, so we do not have to redo it later. This time I have learned my lesson. Sorry. Then I have to charge you double. Trust me, it feels like this spark plug is being removed for the first time. And it is even a twin electrode type. To save effort, I put it straight onto the tester to check how it is working. The condition of all 4 spark plugs is not very good, but they are barely usable. Then put them straight back on the bike. That is right, a strong spark jumps out. Then I casually measured the cylinder compression. Each one shows more than 10 bars of pressure. Among all the bikes I have worked on, this is the fiercest one, which fully shows that its power must be huge. Now, I am sure the electrical system has no problem. Next, it is time to deal with this beggar of a fuel tank. Fortunately the tank is plastic, so there is no rust inside. But the fuel pump here is not satisfying. I hook it directly to power for testing. As expected, there is no response. I still use the old trick to shake it back and forth. Please secretly remember this little secret. Do not let that guy find out. When it has been without fuel for a long time, you can try tapping and shaking the fuel pump, and most of the time it will come back to life. I also discovered on this bike, there is an extremely unreasonable design. They actually put the air filter under the fuel tank. This means that even for a simple minor service, you still have to strip half the bike like I did. Looking at it like this filter element is very likely produced on December 19, 2005. Now the fuel is filled, the power is on. We can try starting it. Wish me good luck. Now this bike will not take throttle. I suspect the problem is still in the fuel system. This morning we both knocked on the fuel pump, so the problem can only be at the injectors. But after removing them, it did not seem like that testing them directly showed it was not their fault. Fuel was spraying out freely. So, you think the problem is not in the fuel system? At least these injectors are fine. For this job 6500 really bought me a load of trouble. Nothing has gone smoothly. There are obstacles everywhere. Now it really can start, but it only fires for a moment and will not take throttle. After a while it starts again. The problem is not in the fuel path, so I checked the ignition system again. I can be sure this ignition circuit has no problem. Then I carefully read through its service manual and use the professional BMW diagnostic tool. Still did not find anything solid. Hey, do you want a cigarette? I feel like it just had some weird minor illness, trapping it and trapping me as well. Could it be some phantom problem? Please believe that at the end of science there is always traditional wisdom. Now I am completely confused, not sure where the problem lies, and I do not even know what I am looking for. Anyway, after a few days, I found that after it stalled by itself, this hose would swell up and become even harder. So I pulled this hose off. I came out of one end, and the other end was not even letting air through. This does not comply with Newton's laws. I started to spray cleaner into it. I found a lot of gunk inside. It seemed to be clogged. It splashed all over our faces, but I think this is exactly where the problem was. Then I cleaned the fuel bowl, wiped it, and reinstalled the tank. I still was not sure if this was really the cause. We could only wish ourselves good luck. I told you, at the end of science there is definitely our traditional wisdom. Just this tiny return hose being clogged held me up for 4 or 5 days. Luckily I blew it out with pressure in time and made its true form show itself. Now let us quickly put the bike back together and go test the other functions. If anything is not right, I will blast it again. Now the front and rear tires are inflated, and the bike has also been checked. Time to go for a test ride. Wish me luck. even though this bike has sat for almost 10 years without being touched, its performance and comfort now are truly no joke. Looks like my 2